Welcome to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultant Show. Whether you hold a corporate 9-to-5 or have determined that you want to explore the small business realm, this show is for you. Christian Carrillo talks to entrepreneurs and experts in the real estate and small business realms to discover what they do, why they do it, and how they do it to help show you the art of the possible. And now your host, Christian Carrillo.
Welcome back to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultants Show. I am your host, Christian Carrillo. Our guest today is Dr. Wes Waddle. Thank you for hopping on the show, my good sir. How are you doing?
Very good, my friend. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, of course. So Dr. Wes Waddle was born and raised in Marion, Ohio. He received his BS degree in secondary education from Hyles-Anderson College in 1986. He later received his Master's of Theology and Doctorate in Religious Studies. He has worked in the finance and real estate industries for the past 30 years and is an approved real estate instructor through the Arizona Department of Real Estate and has earned the designation of Certified Mortgage Banker. This is quite impressive because it's actually the highest designation offered by the Mortgage Bankers Association of America. I could go on and on and on about Wes's background, but I've had the pleasure of getting to know him the last couple of months, and he's truly showed me the art of the possible and has really opened my eyes up to what an individual can accomplish in life. So I wouldn't do him justice unless I sort of turned it over to him and let him talk a little bit more about who he is and what he does. Again, Wes, welcome to the show. It truly is a pleasure to have you on. We've been meaning to get you on for quite some time, so I'm very excited to have you on. But why don't you get us started with a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
I think your introduction was amazing. I mean, you've done a little bit of homework on me. And I tell people, if you Google my name, I'm all over the internet. I can't hide anymore. So the good part about it, back when I was a freshman in college, somebody made the mistake of calling me a jack of all trades and a master of none. And to me, it was like, I think they were trying to do it like an insult. So I just took it as a idea. Why don't I master each one? So I was in college at the time, in a Bible college. So I decided to go ahead and get my master's degree. So I've got my master's degree in theology. My master's was to teach English and music. Then I went on and got my postgraduates. And then I was flying airplanes. So I thought, well, if I'm flying airplanes, what do I have to master it? I need to be a commercial pilot. So I got my commercial pilot rating and then became a certified flight instructor. Well, as you said, I was in mortgage banking. So the highest designation there was a certified mortgage banker. The highest designation in real estate was a real estate instructor. So I decided to master each one. And then I was told years ago, I was working for a corporation and they told me, I asked for a promotion. They said, we can't give you a promotion. Why not? You're overqualified. Wait a minute, time out. What do you mean overqualified? How can anybody be overqualified? So I thought, well, if I can't be a supervisor because I'm overqualified, why don't I'll just wait and become a manager. Well, a management position opened. They said, you can't go into management. Why not? Well, your degree is not in management. Your degree is in education. So, well, that means you're underqualified. Wait a minute. You just told me 2 months ago I was overqualified. What do you mean overqualified? So I was living in Chicago at the time. And so I started calling the universities. I called the University of Chicago, Chicago State, Loyola, and all the Northwestern, and all of them said, could I have 1 hour with a PhD, any department, and ask, what does it mean to be overqualified? What's it mean to be underqualified? How does somebody get to be overqualified or underqualified? Because I didn't want that to happen to anybody else in life. So the title of the book and the first chapter is Overqualified, Underqualified. What will your education and life experience be worth to you? I have seen more people go out with their life experience and make multi-million dollars or build great companies. I'm working with one right now. He dropped out of high school in the 8th grade, and he's running a very successful construction business. You don't have to go to college. It's like a commercial pilot. never has to go to school, while it never has to go to high school or college. It's a different line of study. So depending on what your life experience is, and then what your education is, I know many people with advanced degrees who can't find a job.
Yeah.
When somebody did a research on the homeless people and realized that many of the homeless people have college degrees because they never learned financial literacy. So about 5 years ago, I started a nonprofit here in the state of Arizona called Qualified Inc. to help people who are to learn about financial literacy. So sometimes we'll help veterans. In fact, I'm meeting with veterans in about 2 hours from now, just a group of veterans saying, hey, why don't we teach everybody in our area financial literacy? I don't want to see another homeless veteran. So the title of the book is Overqualified, Underqualified. What will your education, not your parents' education, what will your education be worth? And then what is education? For instance, I use the example, if I take my son to the zoo, then it's a life experience. If my wife, who's a teacher, takes him to the zoo, then it's called education. It's the same experience. So it's a life experience versus education. Then what's the value of it? How do we monetize it? So that's one of the things we looked at. And then again, that was chapter 1. Chapter 13, of course, was when high school seniors take over. And I tell people, now I'm 50 years ago, again, I'm 64. So when I was a teenager, the Vietnam era was happening and high school seniors and college freshmen were taking over America. Well, that's what's happening right now. I'm putting together a team of gentlemen that you've met who are younger, because in 10 years from now, they will take over the country. They will be the leaders. I was 64, I'll be 74 in 10 years. You guys are going to be taking over the country. So what I want to do is get the high school seniors, college freshmen together and help them to move forward and build the country together. Now, another chapter in the book is perseverance. No matter what you do, you can't do it overnight.
Yeah.
I've heard many times an overnight success may take you 13 years, 50 years to actually do. Oh, he was an overnight success. Yeah, but he's been prepared for many, many years to get there. It's all perseverance. You have to keep going and keep going and keep going. Another chapter I've got in there is on mentorship. Everybody needs a great mentor.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that on my next book, and I'll discuss that in a couple minutes. Mentorship is the one key that most people who fail don't have. If they have a mentor to guide them, they'll get to wherever they're going. And that's what I want to do for you, your listeners, and your the teams that you work with. And then I teach. In the back of my book, the first book, there's a supplement on building a business or buying a business. Since 9 out of 10 businesses fail, you either have to build 10 businesses, or better yet, just find one that's working and go buy it. There's ways to leverage and buy the business, which will save you a massive amount of time, plus teach you how to buy more businesses after you build that one. So that's one of the things I look at is what can I do for your listeners? What's your thoughts so far?
Wow, I think that's incredible. And just the idea of perseverance, I think is so powerful. I think Albert Einstein said it best, right? He says, it's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. So I think that that's incredibly powerful. And to see you sort of couple that with mentorship, right? Sir Isaac Newton said it, right? If I can see far, it is because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I think that is so powerful. And a lot of times I think individuals, whenever we're pursuing new endeavors, starting new careers, we maybe try to go about it by ourselves, right? Trial and error. You don't have, it's very important to learn from mistakes, but they don't have to be your mistakes, right? So how can I learn from people that are currently where I want to be, say in 6 months, a year from now, etc. So I think that is incredibly powerful. And I'm so happy you brought that up.
Well, what took me 30 years to do, I can teach you to do it in 3 years and maybe even 3 months. Because once you learn, you don't have to sit and study a 4-year degree. as long as we teach you the basics. For instance, if you got a few minutes, I'll tell you about my next book that's coming out.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
One of the supplements to my first book, again, overqualified, underqualified, you can get it on Amazon. But one of the supplements on there, I've got two supplements. One was Get a Vision, Focus, and Succeed. A lot of people have a vision. Now this goes from there's a Bible verse that says, young men will see visions, old men will dream dreams. If you're old, yeah, you just dream about what could have been. But at your age, while you're still young, you got a vision about where you want to go. And that's what I want to do. So I created what I call the dimes theory. Christian, anything you want or your listeners want, they will either get or have gotten or will not get because they failed to use the dimes theory. The first part of the dimes theory is desire. Now, the word desires comes from the Father. That could be a father figure. It could be a heavenly father. It could be a stepfather. It could be your biological father. Whatever you want is typically comes from an outside source. Why do you want it? What is it you want? And then we combine the desires, and then we add to that determination. Okay, you have the desire. Are you really determined to get it? I mean, the word determination is from termination. You're going to stop quitting, basically what it says. You're determined to make it happen. You have the desire. You're going to quit quitting. You have the determination and the diligence, day by day by day, to get where you want to go to make it happen. Now, I teach this to sales teams. When I've talked this to sales managers, they said, Wes, that's it exactly. Our people don't even know what they want. And then we can't get them to be determined to get it. The I in the dimes theory stands for inspiration. Christian, what inspires you? What inspires each of your listeners, your readers, your followers? What inspired them to get in the mirror, to listen to this broadcast? So we want them to be inspired. Now, some people would say a cup of coffee. You get a hot cup of coffee with with the caffeine and the smell. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes if you're around a different individual, sometimes it's the scent off the individual, the perfume or whatever. Sometimes it's a piece of music while you're driving down the road that puts you into a certain spirit where you turn it up and say, I've got this. Nothing can stop me now. So what puts you in the spirit? But now that you're in that spirit, you need to have the intent to make it happen. There's a lot of words talking about intentions. So what do you really you're in the spirit to make it happen, but do you really intend to make it happen? And then you look at the third I is integrity. Are you really being true to yourself, or are you doing it because that sales manager told you to? If it's true to yourself, if you got the integrity to make it happen and say, this is really what I want to make this happen for my family, for my future, and it's true to yourself and it's ingrained in you, then you'll make it happen. So we talked about the D, we talked about the I, let's talk about the M. The M stands for motivation. Motivation is movement. In other words, without movement, nothing happens. Just that simple. Now, I'm a flight instructor, so I use this paradigm. It takes a lot of momentum or motivation to move an airplane from the tarmac over to the runway. It takes a lot of power to get it to the runway. But that's motivation. But until I give it the word momentum, once I'm at the runway, until I give it full power, get it geared up to get it off the ground, without the momentum, we're not going to get it off the ground. Most people have a lot of motivation. They move, they do what they've got to do, but they never get the motivation to get off the momentum to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
Once you do get it off the ground, you have to have what we call mentorship. Mentorship, if you're a pilot in command, you have a co-pilot. If you're a new student pilot, you have a flight instructor. If you're flying by yourself, you have to remember whatever that instructor or that co-pilot would have done. Now you're by yourself, but you've got that mentorship behind you. Most people will go through the motivation, but they'll until they give it the momentum, and that's one of the hardest things to do. And without somebody mentoring you to guide you and say, yeah, let's do this together, let's make this happen. Without that mentorship, most people will get to the middle of the runway and just shut it back down and say, I'm afraid. It's like you and I were talking before about you being afraid of heights. Well, you and I will go skydiving together. That'll get rid of it. Why?
Yeah.
Because you have a mentor. And then so we got the 3 M's, and then we go through the E called enthusiasm. Now I got a book in front of me right now by Charlie Tremendous Jones called Life is Tremendous. On the front of it says, enthusiasm makes the difference. Now, because of that, enthusiasm comes from the word of in theos, or in God. We're about this time of the speech, I get real enthused when people say, where's that enthusiasm coming from? I don't know, but it's enthusiasm. It's not from inside of me, it's from inside of something else. So my enthusiasm, and then once you get that, everything comes into place, and I call it enlightenment. And it's like a light bulb comes on over your head, like, wow, everything does work like he is saying. Exactly. So we look at the enthusiasm, we look at and then the last one is expectation. What do you really, you and I talked before we came on the air about what do you really expect to happen in life? Christian, what do you really expect? So think about that. And while your listeners are thinking about that, let's go into the S of it. So we've got the D, I, M, and E. Let's talk about the S. The S, if you have the other 4, you're going to have success because it's determined. You're going to have salvation. If you want to talk about the Bible terms, I'll give you, that's another sermon for another time. But yeah, you can have success, you can have satisfaction, you can have salvation, you can get a higher salary. There's a lot that you can do with the S. So we look at that and say, okay, now I've got the D, the I, the M, the E, and the S. Which one of those, and I ask each one of your listeners, which one of those are they missing? Did they miss the enthusiasm and they just can't get enthused about their job? Did they miss the mentorship? Did they miss the integrity? They weren't being true to themselves? Could they just not get inspired? What was it of those 12 or 15 things that I just said? What was that one that they missed, and now they're not getting to where they want to go because they're missing one of those key elements? Now, here's one of the things I always ask is, there's a lot of people who will get the D and the I. They're determined and they're inspired. They go down the road, running the radio up full blast. They're inspired. They have their cup of coffee or their cigarette or whatever, and they get really inspired. And that's all they do. D and the I, and they die. But they lived an inspired life, and that's not bad. You lived an inspired life, it was great, and that's fine. Some people have to go to work every day, the 9 to 5. They have the D, the I, and the M. Yeah, they're motivated. Yeah, they go to work and do what they've got to do. But it's a D-I-M. It's a real dim life. Others have the D, the I, the M, and the E because they've got the full system. Now they get the S. Now they got all the satisfaction. They're very happy. They have a great life. Now, the nice part about it is if we teach you that, again, I can do this in a 5-minute sermon or a 5-minute speech or a 30-minute keynote, whatever somebody needs us to do. But I always ask, okay, I've just taught you basically what I call the dimes theory. So what do we call it, Christian, when we convert a quarter to 2 dimes and a nickel? What do we call that? If I convert a quarter to 2 dimes and a nickel, what do we call that? Making change. In other words, if I convert 2 dimes and a nickel to a quarter or vice versa, we just called it making change. Now, Christian, I've just taught you and all your listeners how to make a change. What I recommend is this: take 2 dimes and a nickel, place them anywhere on your desk, on your mirror, on your dresser, just 2 dimes and a nickel. Why? Because there's 2 dimes, so you remember the dime theory. The nickel is going to remind you of all 5 parts, and look at those every day. And if you don't succeed, look at those 2 dimes and a nickel when you get to your desk. Think, what is it I'm missing? What of those parts am I missing? I've got the 2 dimes and a nickel, and you go through the outline thinking, what is it I'm missing that I could be the top salesman? or I could be the leader, or I could be the president of this company. Okay, I've got the 2 dimes and nickel. What am I missing? And when you realize you just make that one little change because you added that thing, now you become successful and you can teach. And that's what I want to do for your listeners. Again, I'll go out. I was part of the National Speakers Association years ago. I help build speaking teams. So if that's what you need, if that's what your people need, let me know. And you and I together, we'll build a better America and a better country and a better world. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's very powerful, and I think Napoleon Hill says, patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. And I think that, this framework that you discuss, it's critical to sort of achieving our definition of success, right? Because it's going to vary from person to person. So I think it's very powerful. And Wes, I'd love your thoughts on this, because I think, anytime that maybe we pursue a new endeavor, we fear change, or we see failure as this negative thing. And at least from my corporate experience, I've realized that, the more I challenge myself, the more I'm able to grow, right? There's no worry about being stagnant or being complacent, right? So to me, challenging myself and maybe trying new things out has been very important and instrumental in my growth. What are your thoughts about that? Like, how have you seen that sort of play out with folks?
I have watched people who really wanted to succeed. They maybe, again, going back to the basic, they had a desire and they were inspired, but something happened in what we call the M factor. Were they motivated? Yeah, they took some action, but they never gave it the full momentum or built themselves with a mentorship and a team. Everything they accomplish, and that's one thing I do. My goal this year is I want to accomplish more by having teams. Again, I do commercial real estate. I need a team. I've got commercial mortgage partners. We go up to 300 million. So yeah, it takes teamwork to do that.
Yeah.
I'm buying and selling real estate, or I'm both a licensed in real estate. I'm licensed in mortgage, but I personally do it myself also. So it's just the teamwork. So each person who's listening, or each one of your thinking that you've worked with, if we could help them, typically they're missing either the mentorship, the momentum, or the motivation, because that's where most people get stuck, right in the middle. It's like the old 5 feet from gold or whatever. You're so close, but you don't see it. And that's what happens in a lot of times in aviation. People get right up to getting their pilot's license, or right up to, like you and I were talking about, jumping out of the airplane. They'll get right up to jumping out and they'll look down and say, I ain't going there. So yeah, by having the idea of working with people and helping people, because if you help somebody else, it also helps you also.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And it's so powerful, because we were talking a little bit about the compound effect or and whatnot, but just thinking about, hey, if you have this positive effect on this one individual, right, and then they go on and help another individual, and so on and so forth, maybe we focus on building an ecosystem of professionals, right? What can we accomplish then, right? 1 + 1 is now 15, right? So completely agree with you. And hearing you talk about that, I focus a lot on principles, right, to structure my way of thinking, because I don't think there's any need to sort of reinvent the wheel in any endeavor of life, right? And sort of, there's so many successful individuals out there, that are living in our lifetime, have lived before us, and will continue to live on. And Michelangelo, to me, is one of them. And sort of hearing you talk there made me think about this one quote that he has, where he talks about, I think he says, the problem human beings face is not that we aim too high and fail, but that we aim too low and succeed. So it really made me think, when you were talking about success and sort of the different frameworks and what you need to do and how important mentorship is, it really made me think about how important mentors have been in my life, and to really open my eyes to the art of the possible. I talked a little bit about yourself and how you've sort of got me thinking about like venture capital now, right? Which is, you had told me about that 5 years ago, I would have been like,
Right.
why would I do that when I can just do a 9 to 5? But it's interesting how much folks can open your eyes. So, I completely agree with you.
Right. I tried a 9 to 5 a couple times, and 9 to 5 just doesn't work for me. I mean, at 5 o'clock, it's like, okay, what do I do now? I've got to go do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to surround yourself around folks that think that way, right? Because it really opens your eyes to what you can achieve. And like what sometimes I listen to what people are doing with like startups and like real estate, and I'm like, sometimes like I can't even find the words to talk.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because I would have never thought that folks were doing that, right? Like hearing about a group of like 3 syndicators that are working on a 200 unit complex development in Houston, right? Like to me, I'm like, I thought these were these massive corporations, but no, it's like 3 or 4 individuals pursuing these
projects. 3 or 4 people like me and you. It's like, okay, let's get together. If they can do it, we can do it. Here, you run a capital corporation. It's like, yeah, we can put this together. That's not a problem. And that's what you asked. I know one of the questions that you were going to ask is, what motivates you?
Yeah,
it's ideas. You give me a great idea, and that motivates me. It's like, I've got literally, I think, 600 books in my office right here. And because, okay, if I've got something, I'll pull these books out occasionally and think, wow, that's a great one. Yeah, I need to pull this one out. You name it. And there's books on motivation, success, English, music, all this, aviation, all over this office, because I want to pull ideas off people like you. But I also, going back to the 3 M's, the motivation, mentorship, and motivation, mentorship, and momentum. When you look at that, it's like, once I get that, I've got to give it away. Once you have that much power, and it's like a pilot. He doesn't just take himself up in the air. He's got 300 passengers. He is so motivated. He's got 300 people behind him who are rooting for him to get to where he's going, because they all want to get to where they're going also. And without him piloting them, they can't get to where they're going. So and that's one thing I love about mentorship and momentum is I can give it away to you. If I've got momentum and I'm moving along, it's like, Christian, come on with me. Bring Brian, bring this one, bring Justice, bring this guy. Yeah. And let's all move and succeed together.
Yeah. And I hope our listeners picked up on that, because I think that's a golden nugget, right? Picasso said it best: good artists copy, great artists steal. I think that's incredibly, incredibly powerful. And Wes, we've gotten a couple of messages from some of our listeners where they really want us to ask the individuals that come on as our guests about their motivation, right? You talked a little bit about it. But they specifically, Simon Sinek, his book is Start with Why, right? Yep. So for you specifically, what is your why? You focus on aviation, real estate, theology, you give back to so much in the community, you focus on mentorship. What drives you to do all of that?
When I wake up in the morning, I looked at it like, again, when the guy called me a jack of all trades and a master of none, I thought, give me something else that I can master. What is it today that when I get up, I can go to my office and say, I could do this. Again, after a while, I'm meeting with a group of military veterans to help them to do, real quick, to do what we call the Veterans Memorial Hall Association. We want to build Veterans Memorial Halls in each city, each capital of the United States, all 50 states, where the VFW, the DAV, the Marine Corps League, the CVs, and can all get together and start a veterans group and organization where they can all meet and have it funded. So that's a nonprofit that I helped some guys start years ago. But what we're trying to do is help every military veteran to be able to have financial literacy so that we don't have any more homeless veterans. That motivates me. I'm going to go meet with them, and we're going to have so much enthusiasm saying, well, what if we do this? What if we do this? Let's put this together. We can pull these resources. We can pull these banks. We can do this and make things happen. That's what motivates me, is helping other people and helping to change the next generation, helping to change our country back to Now, I deal some with politics, but I'm very amiable to every idea. You give me an idea that we can help our country or another country and put peace and in locally and around the world, I'm more than happy to do that. So I get motivated by helping others.
That's very powerful, Wes. And I can firsthand say that you have a big impact in the community. So definitely thank you for what you're doing, and know that for all of us out there that you're mentoring, it definitely has a positive impact. So could not thank you enough for that.
Great. Yep. Yeah, because I looked at all of the you and I can do together. Your brain, I think, thinks a lot like mine is. Okay, if there's something out there outside of the box, how can we make it work? When I'm teaching real estate, I say we're learning, we teach inside the box. That keeps you nice and safe. We teach you out. If I teach you to think outside of the box, you'll make so much more happen. Now, if you go outside the rules and the regs, one of us are going to go to jail. We're not going there. Let's stay outside. Let's stay outside of the box, but inside the rules and regs. So by doing that, we can help so many people here and around the world.
Yeah, and it's very similar to Jim Rohn's thinking, right? Where it's formal education will make you a living, self-education will make you a fortune. So I think that's incredibly powerful.
Right, exactly. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to help others, not only through education. Yeah, like I said, I've got hundreds of books, but that's just education. Then you look at, that's the reason I wrote the first, when I had to retitle my first book right at the very end. It's like, what will your education be worth? And then I got to thinking, no, what's your education and your life experience? Because your life experience quite often is more valuable than your education.
Yeah.
But if you combine the two with a mentorship, there's nothing that can stop you.
Yep.
So I used to tell people, I'm the coach of coaches, I'm the mentor of mentors. I actually mentor the mentors.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you know, Wes, it really has been a pleasure getting to chat with you about so many things, right? That I think are just truly golden nuggets for our listeners. And I'm sure that our listeners are going to get a ton out of this. You know, I highly recommend that individuals reach out to you, or just do more research on you, right? Because I think you have a lot of value to add to the world. And it's sort of back to what I was saying, right? There's no need to reinvent the wheel, right? Learn from your mistakes, yes, but also learn from the mistakes of others. It's like, Tim Ferriss has a book, right? Here, I'll pull it up. It's Tools of Titans. Not sure if it's going to show up on the camera, but it's one of those things where I see all of these individuals out in the world that are doing amazing things, right? That maybe started from humble beginnings, didn't have too much, maybe, dropped out of middle school or what have you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But they go on to do these extraordinary things, right? So learn from them, right? And back to the quote from Picasso, pick and choose, right? What's going to help you get to the level, that you want to get to. And you may find out that from learning from all these individuals, there is more to what you wanted, right? There's more to what you can achieve. So very powerful, Wes. Thank you so much. And I definitely want to hop into our quick response round here because I want to be respectful of your time as well. But first question here for you. If you lost it all today, Wes, what would you do?
Now that's an easy one, because for years, in fact, I still create courses on how to buy houses, no money down. So the first thing I would do, in fact, I teach 8 ways to buy houses, no money down, and how to get a home in heaven, no money down, because it's already been paid for. There's so much. When I teach that in churches, I teach it to realtors. It's an approved course that I wrote for realtors here in the state of Arizona, but it's actually, I was on late night TV with the no money down guru. So yeah, I know and I was in mortgage banking and I was in real estate investing. I would just go out and buy more houses, no money down. Christian, how many would you like to buy? With mentorship and momentum, you and I could buy a bunch of houses. What do you want? And then if you want to get a home in heaven, we'll take care of that. It's another sermon at another time, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if I lost it, you don't lose. One thing that I learned a long time ago, you don't lose your degrees. You still have even if you go bankrupt, you still have your college degrees, but you always have that knowledge in your head. So gain the knowledge. So if I lost it all, not a problem. We'll just keep going.
Yep. You reminded me of something one of my mentors told me. It's like, you can take all my money, take all my properties. You can't take my
Right,
knowledge or my connections. Right. I'll be
right,
back. Uh,
exactly. I'll
that's
make a
very
phone
powerful.
call.
I'll make a phone call. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Wes, going forward, what do you have planned, let's say in your life, and why?
I want to teach financial literacy, not only to the veterans, and build good speaking teams to have to help our country and help the world. And a lot of it is knowing how to create peace. My wife said one time, she said, "You never get mad, do you?" And now my wife and I've known each other for many years. She said, "You don't get angry." I said, "Well, the Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers. So why should I get angry and start changing that?" So what I want to do is be able to teach financial literacy and teach how to have peace, how to have I'm not saying be rich, just be comfortable and
Yeah.
have um, great families, but also in my spare time, buy and build multifamily properties. That's
Yeah.
what you and I are experts at that. By doing that, I can help them to be housed, even low income housing. I'm working with one group just regarding low income housing because I
Yeah.
want to be able to help our country accordingly that direction.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. And the low income housing tax credits, I think
Right,
that's an area I want to focus on as well, right? Because you give a family a home, you give them that roof, and I think that's we always talk about a foundation of the home, right? If the
right,
foundation is cracked, that home is coming down. But what if we can start to help them build that foundation? So
right, exactly.
very
Yep.
powerful, very powerful. So if you could give our listeners one piece of advice today, what would it be?
I thought about that years ago because somebody asked me that. And I always say, I learned this one phrase: never be afraid to ask. Now, I was offered the vice president of banks. I was offered this and that. And I thought, no, I'm not good enough for that, or no, or I turned certain things down, or somebody say, well, what do you want? And I didn't. I was afraid to ask for too much, and I learned a long time. Never be afraid to ask. The Bible says, "Ask and you shall receive." If you ask the right person at the right time, in the right way, with the right attitude, for the right reason, you'll get what you want. It's just getting the right time, the right reason, the right attitude. If you're getting it just to try to get it for yourself, even there's no reason for them to give it to you. If I need something so that I can give it to you, or give it to the veterans, or give it to your listeners, or to help others out, yeah, they'll give it to me so that I can help spread the good out. But if I'm trying to get it for myself, so one thing I tell all your listeners: never be afraid to ask. If you I've talked to guys who say, I wish I would have asked her to marry, and she would have probably said yes. I don't know if you're married or not. We won't go into that with certain guys. But yeah, I had to ask my wife to marry me. Some people say, but my wife, understand, I stand 5'7". My wife is 6'2". My wife's got immense level IQ. She's a genius. And when I asked her to marry me, it's like, I was sort of afraid to, but it's like, never be afraid to ask. And she said yes. Really? It's like I literally married up. But yeah, never be afraid to ask for whatever you want. Because worst that can happen is they'll say, no, that's not a problem. Move on, find the person with the right attitude at the right time in the right way who will get you what you want. So that's one piece of advice, that if I could help anybody, just don't be afraid to ask. Ask me, ask you, ask anybody. Because if you don't ask, you're not going to get. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and it will be opened unto you. But everybody that asks us, receive us. But there's another verse that says, you have not because you ask not. You don't have because you never asked for it. So go ahead and ask.
I I love that. And I'll say firsthand that I have tried a lot of things in my life. And maybe it was me not wanting to bother folks. And I had to go through trial and error to sort of learn.
Yep.
And I'll reconnect with my mentors and they'll say, oh, why didn't you just ask me? Right. You didn't have to
Right.
go through those 4 months of suffering. I could have just told you in a week.
Thank you.
Right. And it like a lot of my mentors sometimes will say, Christian, you're in your own way. Get out of your own way.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think it's one of those simple pieces of advice that, maybe it seems obvious, but nobody does it.
Right.
Nobody does it. Right. And I think sort of linking the Bible verses in it's great because there is so much truth to that, right? The sense of workmanship. Everybody wants to help other folks, right? Because somebody that is just starting in real estate, I was there at one point and somebody helped me,
Yep. Right.
get along, right? So it's my turn to sort of pay it back, and eventually they'll pay it forward as well. So
Exactly.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
That's what I love, working with others, because then you start building a team and you build lifelong friendships that no matter what happens, once you've helped somebody down the road, they love you forever. I mean, I won't say love it, but they appreciate the mentorship and the friendship, and it's a bonding, just like in the military and other groups that I've been with. Yeah, you have a certain bond. No matter what happens, you've got that connection.
Yeah, very true. Wes, how can our listeners get to know more about you and connect with you?
Well, you can always get onto weswaddle.com. That's WESWADDLE.com. But if, like, I sent you a list of websites that you just Google the words Wes Waddle in Arizona. There's like 6 Wes Waddles around the country, but most of the stuff on the internet are about me. So yeah, if you Google me, you'll find out all kinds of things about. Now I can't hide. I can't. It's out there. But yeah, you'll find out about me. But yeah, if you ever need me, feel free to look me up. I'm more than happy to help out.
Awesome. Wes, once again, you provided so much knowledge, so many golden nuggets. Thank you for hopping on the show, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. Thanks so much.
I look forward to it. You take care. Have a great day, sir.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultants Show, brought to you by Pexels Capital Group. Pexels Capital Group works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate while also looking to add value in the communities where they operate. Pexels Capital Group, client-centered, data-driven, result-oriented. Connect with us online at quetzalcapitalgroup.com to learn more.